Thank you, and good evening. I call to order the July special meeting and work session of the Crestwood School District Board of Education. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, Mrs. Black, if we can please have a roll call, please.
Ms. Bibla? Mr. Boone?
Here.
Mr. Brogna?
Here.
Ms. Haddix?
Here.
Ms. McCurdy?
Here.
Mrs. McGovern?
Here.
Ms. Spath? Mr. Swank?
Here.
Mr. Costello?
Here.
I have 7 members present.
Thank you, Mrs. Black. Executive session was held prior to the special board meeting on July 30th, 2020 in regards to contracts, personnel, and active or pending litigation. As we get into our voting session, I'll be seeking approval of both the board minutes from June 18th, 2020 and June 24th, 2020, as well as the approval of the Treasury's report of July 2020. At this time, we're going to begin our work session portion of our board meeting. And this will allow both board and the public to provide comments during our committee chairs' agendas and sessions. So at this time, and when we go back into our regular voting session, we will have the formal public testimony on agenda items as well as non-agenda items this evening. But during this time, during committee reports, we'll ask if there's questions from the board as well as the public, and you can try to go through and ask those questions, and we'll do our very best to answer them. So at this time, Mr. Brogna, Financial Planning Committee.
I will be seeking a motion for approval items 1 through 4.
I think there's 5.
I stand corrected. I'll be seeking a motion for approval items 1 through 5.
Let me see here.
I believe we're tabling item 1. Is that correct?
Yeah, I had a corrected agenda that only had 4.
Oh, okay. My God.
So item 1 has been removed. Is that correct?
The Pierce
Yes.
Store item was gone. I removed the frontline agenda item already. Pierce Star is number 1 now.
That's correct. There's 4 items then on the agenda.
If you scroll down, I think there's a resolution for,
Yes, correct. My
and
apologies.
the number
Yes.
5, and the number 5 is to recommend to FNCB agreement.
Yes, item 1 standing the approval for the licensing agreement with Pure Star. Item 2, recommending consideration and approve the agreement with the LIU and Crestwood School District for the promise agreement. Item 3, recommend consideration and approve the agreement with NFHS. Item 4, recommend consideration and approve the following resolution declared by the COVID-19 pandemic emergency school pursuant to section 520.1 and the Pennsylvania School Code. And item 5, recommend consideration and approve the amendment to the FNCB Bank agreement as follows.
Yeah, so it should be 1 through 5.
Okay, do we have any questions from the board?
Good.
Are there any questions from the public on financial planning?
Not at this time.
Okay, very good. Moving on, our next is Transportation Committee. Mrs. Spath is not here. Mr. Brogna, if you'd like to take Transportation Committee. And it appears there's just no report at this time.
That's correct.
Yeah, there are no items for the Transportation Committee review or approval.
Any questions by the board in regards to transportation or from the public?
None at this time.
Okay, policy committee, Mrs. McCurdy.
Yes, I will be seeking a motion for approval of item 1. Are there any questions from the board? Seeing none, are there questions from the public?
At this time, no questions from the public on policy.
Okay, very good. Human resources, Mrs. McGovern.
I will be seeking approval on items 1, 2, 2A and B, and also number 3. Are there any questions from the board?
Excuse me, I don't see, I might be looking at the wrong agenda here. On the screen I'm looking at, I have an agenda that does not have a number 1 under policy. And I have a human resources agenda that does not have a number 3. I have a 1, a 2, and a 2A. I have a 1 and a 2 and an A and a B, but I don't have a number 3.
Peter, number 3 would be recommend consideration to accept full-time paraprofessional Donna Earnhardt's intent to retire. Donna will not be returning for the start of the 2021 school year, and Donna has over 25 years of service with the district.
Oh, okay, then I have the wrong agenda. I don't have the right agenda up, Damien. Damien, there's a wrong agenda. Damien, that's not the right agenda that's on the screen then. Sure. Would be probably, Joanne, you might have to send that one. That might be the retirement one that was added.
Okay, I'll send it to you, Damien.
Are there any questions from the board or from the public?
Questions regarding
Human resources.
human resources.
I don't see any, so therefore we can move on. Bob, if you want to just read in for the group as we're getting it up, can you read in item 1 of policy, just so it's officially read into the record? This is
Yes.
only the work session, so again, we're okay. We can iron these little things out. Once it's on the approval for the vote, we'll make sure we have it up on the screen. But just to read that in, please, for members of the community that are viewing.
Sure. So under our policy committee, recommend consideration and approve and adopt the third and final reading of policy number 823, which refers to our Narcan policy, and policy 707, which refers to our facilities usage policy.
Thank you, Bob. Okay, we're going to move to Academic Programs Committee. Mr. Boone.
I will be looking for a motion for approval of items 1 through 6. Any questions from the board or the public?
Seeing none at this time, let's move forward to Co-Curricular Committee, Mr. Swank.
Randy, I think you're muted.
Thank you, Barry. I will be seeking approval of items 1 through 7. Any questions from the board? None? Any questions from the public, Pete?
Not seeing any, we'll move on to Physical Plant and Construction, Buildings and Grounds Committee, Mrs. Haddix.
There is no update for building and grounds.
I have a question. I know I got a communication within the last month that we had to get our district engineer, and I don't even know who that is, to write up the RFP so that we can get moving on renovations and enabling us next year to bring back some special education classes. where are we on that?
We have to, the attorney Dean is going to petition to get the building rezoned. And we have to get that rezoning done first. And once we get it rezoned first, then we can begin the engineering thing. So I believe the rezoning thing is coming up next month. But I'll get an update from Attorney Dean tomorrow, and I will forward it along to you guys for the rest of the board for their update.
Okay.
To make sure that he has to get it rezoned, because we have to get it rezoned first, and then we could start with the engineering. We don't even know who the actual engineering firm is first. I'm going to ask most likely the architect, the engineer, the architect that's working on the feasibility study, how much it will cost for him to engineer the specs out for us for that project. As I can addendum to their agreement to what they're working on already. That seems to be the easiest way to do it, and go from there.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any questions from the public in regards to physical plant and construction?
Mr. Costello, there are questions coming in. Can we go through the work session and then we can answer the questions?
Yeah, we can go if they're non-agenda or agenda questions, we can answer those as we get into the voting session.
Okay,
Anything comes in directly as a result as we're going through the work session.
okay.
But, Technology Committee, Mrs. Bibla's not here. Mrs. Haddix?
I have no update on technology.
Any other questions from the board on technology? Community? Go ahead, Barry.
Damian, how close are we to getting moving on the marquee out front? I know we're finalizing or revamping our contract a little bit. Any idea when the actual work is going to take place?
I could answer that question, Barry.
Okay,
The electrician we got the go-ahead from FNCB. We made the deal that we're gonna pay half of the electrician, and FNCB is going to pay half electrician. And then we are going to move forward on getting the electrical work done. I gotta talk with Scott and find out when the electrician's going to come in. And then once that's done, we're going to get the sign installed in a very, very quick order. So it should be done probably by mid-August, but it all depends on when the electrician can come and do that work. So I'll find out from Scott when he heard back from the electrician, but we got to get the electrician in to do that work from the clock and get that straightened out.
well, we need work on the clock too?
No, the clock is going to be where the wiring's coming from or something like
Okay.
that.
Receive mail. Press 1 to be connected to a warranty specialist. Warranties
you.
are mileage and time sensitive. Before your
that's
vehicle.
Thanks. Positive Behavioral Intervention Committee. Mrs. Bibla again isn't here. Mrs. Haddix, if you can take that one as well.
I will be seeking approval for items 1 through 5.
Any questions by the board? And then questions from the community in regards to Positive Behavioral Intervention Committee. Very good. Okay, we will begin now our official start to our voting session of our meeting.
Are there questions from the public?
Yep, that's
Yeah,
part of our official, that'll be a part, Barry, of that's items 2 and 3 of the agenda for public testimony on agenda as well as non-agenda items. So we'll go through, again, we're going to start now the voting session of the meeting. And with that, if we have another roll call by Mrs. Black, please.
Ms. Bibla? Mr. Boone?
Here,
Mr. Brogna?
Here,
Ms. Haddix?
Here,
Ms. McCurdy?
Here,
Mrs. McGovern?
Here,
Ms. Spath? Mr. Swank?
Here.
Mr. Costello?
Here.
7 members present.
Thank you, Mrs. Black. At this time, I'll be seeking a approval for the board minutes of June, for approval of the board minutes of June 18th, 2020 and June 24th, 2020.
motion, Mr. Boone.
Motion by Mr. Boone,
second,
Second by Mrs. McGovern. Roll call, please, Mrs. Black.
Who was the second?
Mrs. McGovern.
Mr. Boone,
Yes.
Mr. Brogna,
Yes.
Ms. Haddix,
Yes.
Ms. McCurdy,
Yes.
Mrs. McGovern,
yes,
Mr. Swank,
Yes.
Mr. Costello.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Mrs. Black. Letter F under item 1, I am seeking for a motion and approval of the treasurer's report of July 2020.
Motion Brogna.
Motion by Mr. Brogna,
Swank.
second by Mr. Swank. And Mrs. Black, roll call, please.
Mr. Boone,
Yes.
Mr. Brogna,
Yes.
Ms. Haddix,
Yes.
Ms. McCurdy,
Yes.
Ms. McGovern,
yes,
Mr. Swank,
Yes.
Mr. Costello.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Mrs. Black. As we move to item 2, public testimony on agenda items only. Mr. Mahalik, do you have agenda item questions for us to be read in?
Okay, now we have a lot of questions. We're going to answer all of them. I'm gonna recommend us, Damien, if you could pick out which ones are agenda items. I know there was one regarding the Promise program that I could answer, but we have hundreds of questions, so I'd like to maybe go through the agenda and certainly not end the meeting, and then I could start going through each question one by one. Mr. Blanchard will answer them or will ask them of me. So there's just a lot of questions. So Damien, are you able to pick out the ones that are for agenda items only? Yes, so the Promise Agreement is an agreement that we do each and every year. It relates to our prom promise. It's sponsored by our attorneys, Ceratoni and Fellerman. It talks about, obviously, the dangers of drinking and driving, the legal aspects and considerations of drinking and driving, and just really how to keep our students safe during that time. So we thank so much the sponsors of this very important program. We do this each and every year, and we're going to continue to do it because this message, this can never be said enough to our students. Thank you for that question. Sure. So that's not an agenda item. So why don't we do the agenda, finish the voting part, and then I will take each and every question that comes in.
Mr. Buffalino, is that okay? We're on item 2 on public agenda items. Are we allowed to skip over item 3 to go to committee votes before we go back to non-agenda item discussion?
As long as you're covering the agenda, what order you go in should not be an issue.
Okay, very good. Then we'll do that. Thank you. So let's go into item 4, the committee reports in our voting session. Financial Planning Committee, please.
I will be seeking a motion and approval for items 1 through 5.
Damien. Did you remove? Just,
Damien,
That's
You're
we
on
on
gotta
table.
strike it. We gotta, it's not 1 through 5. Just, Mr. Brogna, could you edit your motion to say edit 2 through 6, please, Mr. Brogna? Before we get a second.
Certainly, I will be seeking a motion and approval for items 2 through 6 on the Financial Planning Committee.
Thank you.
Motion, Swank.
motion made by Mr. Swank,
Second, Boone.
second by Mr. Boone. Mrs. Black, roll call, please.
Mr. Boone,
Yes.
Mr. Brogna,
Yes.
Ms. Haddix,
Yes.
Ms. McCurdy,
yes,
Mrs. McGovern,
yes,
Mr. Swank,
yes,
Mr. Costello.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you, Mrs. Black. And we're going to move on to our next, which is our policy committee. Item, again, and Mrs. McCurdy, if you would please read one in so that it's officially onto the agenda. Thank you.
sure. I will be seeking a motion for approval of item 1, which is recommend consideration, approve, and adopt the third and final reading of policy number 823, Narcan, and policy 707, facilities usage.
Motion, Boone.
Motion by Mr. Boone,
Second, Mr. Brogna.
second by Mr. Brogna. Mrs. Black, roll call, please.
Mr. Boone,
Yes.
Mr. Brogna,
Yes.
Ms. Haddix,
Yes.
Ms. McCurdy,
Yes,
Mrs. McGovern,
yes,
Mr. Swank,
yes,
Mr. Costello.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Mrs. Black. Human Resources, Mrs. McGovern, and let's also, again, Mrs. McGovern, read number 3 into the agenda so it's a physical reading of that number.
I am seeking approval on items 1, 2A, and B, and number 3, which reads to recommend consideration and accept full-time paraprofessional Donna Earnhardt's intent to retire. Donna will not be returning for the start of the 2021 school year. Donna has over 25 years of service with the district.
Motion, Boone.
Motion by Mr. Boone,
Second,
second by Mrs. McGovern. Mrs. Black, roll call, please.
Mr. Boone,
Yes.
Mr. Brogna,
Yes.
Ms. Haddix,
Yes.
Ms. McCurdy,
yes,
Mrs. McGovern,
yes,
Mr. Swank,
yes,
Mr. Costello.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Mr. President, may we just take one moment, pay tribute to this amazing, amazing person, Donna. She's beloved by so many here at the district. 25 years of service. That's just phenomenal. You know, you don't replace somebody like that. And she's going to be missed. I tell you that she was such a big, big addition to our district. And Donna, we thank you for your dedication, your devotion, your service on behalf of the Board of Education and every single child's life you touched over the course of 25 years. Please have a safe, healthy, wonderful, long retirement. And please remember, you are always welcome here at Crestwood. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Bob, and thank you, Donna. Enjoy that retirement. Moving on to Academic Programs Committee, Mr. Boone.
Looking for a motion for approval of items 1 through 6.
motion,
Motion Haddix.
Who gave the motion? I'm sorry.
McCurdy,
Motion by Mrs. McCurdy, second by Mrs. Haddix. Mrs. Black, roll call, please.
Mr. Boone,
Yes.
Mr. Brogna,
Yes.
Ms. Haddix,
Yes.
Ms. McCurdy,
yes,
Mrs. McGovern,
yes,
Mr. Swank,
Yes.
Mr. Costello.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Mrs. Black. Co-curricular committee, Mr. Swank.
Yes, I will be seeking a motion for approval of items number 1 through 7 with the following corrections. Item number 5, the salary should read $4,880. Item number 6, item number 6, that salary should also read $4,880. So again, I'm seeking a motion with those corrections of items 1 through 7.
Can I have a minute to check the contract on that?
Barry, I've been in contact with our athletic director. Those numbers that are on the agenda are incorrect since the soccer was adjusted a year or two ago.
Oh, to match football?
I don't recall why it was adjusted, but Mr. Ambosi informed me that those numbers were not accurate.
Okay, yeah.
Mr. Swank, may I have the salary figures again, please?
Yes. So for both items 5 and 6, the salary should read $4,880 for Mr. Kyle and then Mrs. Antosh.
4,880?
Yeah, 4,880.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'll make a motion, Mrs. McGovern.
Motion by Mrs. McGovern,
Second, Mr. Boone.
second by Mr. Boone. Roll call, please, Mrs. Black.
Mr. Boone,
Yes.
Mr. Brogna,
Yes.
Ms. Haddix,
Yes.
Ms. McCurdy,
Yes.
Mrs. McGovern,
Yes.
Mr. Swank,
Yes.
Mr. Costello.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Mrs. Black. And Positive Behavioral Intervention Committee, Mrs. Haddix.
I will be seeking approval of items 1 through 5.
Motion, McCurdy?
Motion by Mrs. McCurdy,
Second, Mr. Boone.
second by Mr. Boone. Roll call, please, Mrs. Black.
Mr. Boone,
Yes.
Mr. Costello,
Yes.
Mrs. McGovern,
Yes.
Mr. Swank,
Yes.
Mr. Brogna,
Yes.
Ms. McCurdy,
Yes.
and Ms. Haddix.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Mrs. Black. So at this time, we're going to jump back up to item 3, which are non-agenda public testimony. And I'll turn it over to Superintendent Mr. Mahalik for questions and responses.
Okay, so the process we're going to use here is Mr. Blanchard will ask me the questions. He will state who the question is coming from, and I will, of course, do my very best to give the answer. If there's something that we are still working through, I will get back to the person who is looking for the information. I do want to start with one question from the Honorable Dr. Joseph. He asked a question, last meeting was in person. What changed? Dr. Joseph, if I may answer, it was at my recommendation that we meet virtually. The high school is undergoing a major construction project. As most of us know, we are changing all of our handlers, our chillers. We've redone a lot of the electrical wiring in the district, lots and lots of upgrades. And we're very grateful because we could not have picked a better time to have the best air ventilation system, going for us. However, the district is There are a lot of areas that are disruptive. We have a lot of cleaning to do as part of our deep maintenance cleaning. Whenever people come into the building, we will have a very rigorous maintenance schedule to do the cleaning. So at my recommendation, I didn't want to bring
Nor do I.
in and then have to tonight and tomorrow designate the personnel to be working on the auditorium, the bathrooms around the auditorium, and taking away time that they are in the other areas. The construction project has obviously created a lot of disruptions, and we've had to work around them. And as they complete sections, then our team is going in there and doing all we do to prepare for the opening of the building. So it was at my recommendation that we meet virtually in this manner. So thank you, Dr. Joseph. Thank you so very much to Dr. Baddick for these for the opportunity to speak on this. So, of course, like every district, I think Dr. Baddick mentioned she's at the Scranton School District. Like every district, we have been meeting countless amount of hours and days, putting together all the logistics that go into play to re-entering this school year. Prior to getting on this meeting tonight, I met probably for the 5th or 6th time with our subcommittee of our health and safety plan. I have members of the community, parents, medical professionals, administrators. We have teachers and we have support staff part of our plan. So we have been meeting regularly and will continue to meet even after we go into the start of the school year. So, of course, the recommendations from the Department of Health, from the CDC, and from WHO are forever changing. We are doing everything we can and will do everything we can to meet each and every one of those recommendations where and when possible. So from everything from social distancing, we are looking at our classrooms. And of course, based upon, we've had a very high response to our Crestwood Cyber Academy. I'm very proud of the Crestwood Cyber Academy, the work that we've done to date. Mr. John Gorham spearheading this as our administrator, our lead administrator. But those numbers, of course, are going to come into play for that key piece of this whole pandemic, which is social distancing. So we are beginning the process of going to every classroom, taking things out that do not need to be in there, things that are probably useful, things that probably teachers want at their fingertips. But we know now that we only have so much space. And I'm sure Dr. Baddick knows this. Schools were not built for 6 feet of perimeter. Schools were not built for 3 feet of perimeter. Anybody that's gone through the Plan-Con process will know that you are governed so closely by the Department of Education. You can't overbuild. You can underbuild, you can't overbuild. So clearly, Crestwood School District, Scranton School District, any school district that has gone through the Plan Com process will not have 6 feet. We are going for 3 feet, 3.5 feet. We believe right now, given the high amount of students that are opting to go to the Crestwood Cyber Academy, that we are going to be able to provide that 3 to 3.5 feet. We know that that's not 6 feet. We know that masks, face shields, some sort of face coverings will need to be worn by our students. Our teachers, we are designing the room as best we can so that they will have that 6 feet, because I want every one of our students to be able to see their teacher's face. I think that's important for so many reasons. So we are going to look at everyone, and we have been looking. I mean, these logistics have been being worked on since April. But the social distance is the situation where we definitely have our greatest challenges. 6 feet is not going to be possible in many of our areas. So we are going to follow the safety protocols when you can't provide that 6 feet. That's your masks, that's your shields, that's your face coverings. We are going to preach this over and over and over. And I know our students, like all the students, you know, they're not necessarily understanding right now. I drive by the playgrounds. I've seen pictures of people on the beaches in Hershey Park and Dorney Park. There's not a lot of social distancing. When you come back to school, we will have to social distance. And this will be a part of our life until we're all able to put this behind us. We are looking at every component, what we're gonna do. Well, let me ask you, so that's the first part, social distancing. Why don't you continue asking questions, Damien, and I'm not repeating myself. Yeah, let me say again, these are excellent questions. Yeah, I think the 3 feet, again, we are going to give all that we've got for that 3 feet. The second part, yes, we have already ordered, and most of our masks have come in. We've ordered thousands of masks. We certainly are going to encourage our parents. Provide your child with a mask, a face shield, something you know they're comfortable with, something that they can be, something to be their own. But if you don't have it, or if they should forget it, if they should lose it, we will have spare masks on the bus. So if they come to the bus without a mask, we will give them a mask. We will have masks in school. Now, again, I'm encouraging you, if you have your own face covering, bring it. I think kids will feel more comfortable. We will have, and we've ordered thousands of masks. We have ordered face shields. We've ordered sizes, kid sizes. We've ordered adult sizes and in between, which is our teens. I personally prefer the face shields. I had, as a little experiment, I had brought my youngest son to the school with me. I asked him to put the face shield on as we were doing work one weekend. He was there for 2 hours with me. In that time, we played, we ran, we jumped, we sat, we read. We did a lot of things in those 2 hours. Now, I understand this is a sample of one. This is certainly not peer reviewed, but it was a sample of one. The quality of the mask that we purchased, especially, there's two different types of masks. The quality of the masks, especially for our elementary kids, were just, they're tremendous. They've got great padding. They certainly cover enough of the face and the chin. They They are flexible and they allow the child's head to move. The one thing that my son said over and over, he said, "Daddy, I can breathe. I can breathe." We've been wearing masks since before March 13th. Again, this is only my son. I'm not saying your child has to wear shields. I'm saying we will have shields for your child if that is what you or your child would prefer. Now, we're still trying to decide with our maintenance team, how do we clean these shields? Are we going to let the shields go home at nights? We're still working through these. Now, again, these shields are these are, very durable shields, quite expensive as well. So we don't want them to be lost. So we are going through those logistics. How are we going to clean them? Because that's a lot of shields to clean each night from our maintenance staff, our custodial staff. And if they go home, will they for certain come back the next day? So those are still logistics that the Health and Safety Pandemic Task Force that we formed several weeks back are going through. But yes, masks and shields will be provided if the students need them or forget them and require it for that day. The maintenance staff, again, I probably met with Mr. Brummagem times than I've met with him in my entire time being here, and this is just in the last month. Prior to closure, the week of March 13th, that week leading up to March 13th, Scott and I sat down. Things were starting to become really uneasy. A lot of us were restless with what was happening as this COVID was just starting to make its way into Luzerne County. And we start a pretty intense cleaning schedule during the day. That's going to continue. And we met today, and Mr. Blanchard and my entire staff met today, and we discussed that. We will again have somebody dedicated in each building that is just rotating all day long, cleaning the high traffic areas, doorways, bathrooms, sinks, going into the classrooms. We know that we want to clean those areas as thoroughly as possible and as often as possible. We will obviously at the end of the day have a intensive deep cleaning, but it's going to take during the day that same sort of cleaning for us to feel really confident that there's nothing that our kids can touch or get, or be exposed to inadvertently. So yes, there will be that schedule. We believe we can maintain it with the current staff we have. I said today that if there was a need to, we might have to look at, at times maybe bringing in subs if we see ourselves falling behind in other areas that are maintenance and custodial managed on the day-to-day of the operations of a building.
Okay. To the public, I apologize. Apparently, they weren't able to hear me reading the questions, so I hope you can now. So sorry for the technical mishap there. Next part is, and I think you answered some of this, how many students will be riding on a bus at a time? Will they maintain 3 feet apart? Will they have assigned seats? Are they required to wear masks? And will there be adult to enforce these safety protocols on each bus?
So as it relates to transportation, we do have a transportation subcommittee on our pandemic task force. Mrs. McCurdy is a member of that. I think Mrs. McCurdy is a member of that. No, she's on the Health and Safety Committee. I apologize. But we do have a pandemic subcommittee for transportation only. We have met with our bus contractor, which is Reimheimer. They've been tremendous. One, I could tell you that they've have been having ongoing discussions with their drivers. First and foremost, we obviously want to keep our drivers safe. We want to keep them working. They're a very important part of our school community. They're a very important part of our students' lives. So we want to keep our drivers as safe as possible. Part of keeping them safe is obviously keeping our students safe. We will be cleaning, deep explaining with a mist or a pump bottle each and every time we unload students. So our first run in the morning, the buses will be clean. We will pick up our students. Our first drop off is going to be at the high school building. When those kids unload, the driver will immediately begin their cleaning of the bus before they pull out and begin their runs for our elementary students. They are using a special chemical, not harmful to our children or staff, that they spray, and the spray then dissolves and will kill anything such as the coronavirus and germs that could be on the seats, on the floors, on the headrests, and things of that nature. Each and every time before we pick up, the bus will have been sanitized. After we drop off, the buses will be sanitized. We will assign 2 students per seat. We will assign 2 students per seat. Masks will be mandated on the bus. Face shields, face coverings will not be worn. It will need to be masks. Again, we're going to reinforce to our students, especially early on. Please keep your masks on. Please keep your mask on. Our driver is going to reinforce that. We're going to be asking our parents, please reinforce to your children. We know the bus is a time where they are seeing their friends for the first time, since the day before or the weekend. And we want them to feel like kids and we want them to have fun. But those masks, this is the area that we need to be the most cautious, because it's where we are providing the least amount of space. But we do know that these runs are only for a certain amount of time, and that if they wear masks and if they keep their hands to themselves, that they will have a very, very, very low risk of spreading if somebody should be infected. The adult on the bus right now will be the driver. And again, we're going to work in combination with our families. And we are going to review, talking to the drivers daily. If there's issues on their bus, we do have we have 6th grade students. Certainly they will not be tasked with doing anything but the role they always played, like a patrolman, proper behavior, following the guidelines on the bus. We are going to position them every few seats. Again, they are not there to put on a kid's mask. They're not there to do anything but reinforce appropriate bus rules. And that's something we've done over and over and over. If there is a bus that we are seeing lots of issues with and students not being able to comply, then we will have to look at adding additional support to that bus. Every child will have an assigned seat. If you have a sibling, you will be sitting with your sibling in that assigned seat. Windows will be open for cross ventilation. Again, this is falling in the recommendations of the Department of Health, the CDC, and the World Health Organization. And we believe we're going to be seeing more and more recommendations, especially as it's relating to transportation. We put out a survey this week, once again, asking parents, do you plan on allowing your child to use our transportation? We are going to be following that up with this coming Monday with an application. You will need to fill out the application, transportation application. I know you've done this already, and this is not something you do year after year, but this year we will, because we really need to know the numbers of those buses. There will not be more than 2 kids per seat. And in the past, there were, because the recommendation is you could put 3 students to a seat. That will not happen. We cannot have these buses more crowded than they are. So if we need to take measures and add additional runs, that is what we're going to do. But transportation will be something that is ongoing all year long until we are safely beyond COVID-19.
Okay, let's see. How will students enter and exit the building to avoid congestion in close proximity to one another? Will they be staggered on a schedule, both for arrival and dismissal? And how will the students navigate the narrow hallways while maintaining a safe distance?
So that's going to be management of the buildings. Our administration will do that. We will unload the buses again, and preaching and just constantly reinforcing, safe distance between, walking on the right-hand side of the hallway, just constantly reinforcing that. The elementaries, which are a bit more narrow, they have a good plan of just releasing classrooms at a time. The same thing with coming into the buildings. We're going to, as the bus arrives, just have staff members out there and reinforcing those managerial type of duties that, that is just going to have to become a part of our everyday, existence.
Okay, I think you answered a bunch of these, Mr. Mahalik, so I'm going to kind of like peruse through. One was regarding the arrangement in the classrooms and the sanitation, which I believe you went over. Will students be eating breakfast, lunch in the cafeteria? How will they safely measure? How will safety measures and social distancing be enforced? What processes have been established to maintain a sanitized kitchen, serving stations? Will time be built into the schedule to sanitize the lunchroom between lunches? If bag lunches are served in the classroom, what process will be followed for distribution and cleanup?
Yep. So all those, every single question has been addressed over and over and over. As it relates to the eating, we will be eating in gymnasiums. We will be eating in the cafeteria. We will be safe distance at 6 feet because we know at that time we need to be. We will be looking and using every open large space that we can. Again, our principals are working day and night. I met with Mr. Sayre probably 15 times, looking at every possible logistical situation and barrier that we can have. And we will be obviously staggering lunch times, just for a little bit. So kids that are going into the cafeteria will be able to go in, maintain 6 feet, sit down, have their lunch. There may be some that are eating in the classroom. Again, there will be at least 6 feet at those times. So as it relates to the removing of masks to eat, there is where we're going to have to do like every other school district is doing, and finding as many spaces, being as creative as we can be. And and I've challenged my administrative team, who are just tremendous, working day and night. Challenged them. Let's be creative. Let's still, again, this is still kids, and we still have to make things enjoyable. And we got to make them want to come to school while protecting themselves. We're going to do some fun things outside while the weather is nice. We're talking about cookouts and fun things like that. So it's going to be utilizing every single space, and the administration, like every school district, is working through the barriers that come with those challenges. We will be moving students as minimal as possible, but there will need to be movement. So sanitation of our kitchen, that's not changing. We have always upheld very, very strict sanitation processes, because there's always the opportunity of a very serious, dangerous infection or disease or or some sort of food that can make a child sick. That's not going to change at all. And what can I say? It's going to be increased? No, because we've already been doing every single thing to keep our kids safe and masks, the headpieces. We already have sneeze and guards in front of our food. I have complete confidence in David Feller, the Mets Culinary Group. We will continue to do everything we have as we have up until this point. Our inspections are just tremendous year in and year out. So we'll continue doing that. And will we be more aware? I'm sure. But again, when it comes to, it's very much like security. You never, ever let your guard down with security. You never, ever let your guard down when it comes to the sanitizing of your food service and food prep areas. So I don't see that being a concern, but we have addressed it, and David Feller will assure us that that's not going to be an issue.
Okay. Are there procedures in place for isolating sick students or staff from the general population if and when someone comes to school displaying symptoms of infection? Will potentially infected persons be housed until which time transportation can be arranged to remove them from the school setting?
Yes, there are going to be isolation rooms in all 3 buildings. We've been, again, the pandemic task force, as well as our building administrators are working through what those areas are, making sure there's good ventilation in those areas, making sure they're staffed, appropriately. So yes, there will be, I call them isolation rooms. I've been told over and over and over by my nurses, do not say it's an isolation room. But yes, they will be away from the nurse's office where we are treating, students that are coming in for their routine, nursing matters. So anyone that's that is showing any sort of, any sort of symptom that could be related to COVID. And by the way, that's going to be pretty frequently. We've all been in schools. Kids will come to school with coughs and their noses may be a little runny and their body aches and their tummy might be a little bit upset. That's going to happen. We know that. We're going to encourage strongly to our parents, please, if your child is showing any symptoms, keep them home. We're going to ask our parents, please self-monitor. We're going to have a nice little checklist for them for each morning for them to check their children. The line of defense begins right there in that family's home. So this, again, we can keep our kids as safe as possible if we work as a community. If we work together, as I know we will get that cooperation, but it begins right there at that house. And if that kid, has symptoms, does not feel well, certainly if there's anything that's been prolonged, keep them home. We're going to be, we'll work through the attendance policies and things of that nature. But yes, there will be rooms for just those kids showing symptoms. And while we are waiting for one of their loved ones to come pick them up.
What provisions will be put into place if and when a student or staff member becomes infected with COVID-19? How will contact tracing occur? Will the district close? How long will staff students be expected to quarantine? And how will families be notified of the potential exposure?
So when there is a positive case, we have been given strict guidelines that the Department of Health will take over the process. We will need to cooperate absolutely with them. We will need to help them trace. But at that point, the Department of Health will take the lead and they will start doing the contact tracing. They will start making phone calls. Certainly if they need us to help make phone calls, we will. They will tell us when and where to notify our families. So we, at that point, on a positive case, will be getting strict guidelines from the Department of Health, and we will work side by side with them. And again, our health and safety team, made up of several very prominent doctors in our area, and they are going to continue to work through us. And they understand the role that the Department of Health is going to play. I know they have a very big task ahead of them because we're all expecting there's going to be positive cases. So We are at this point going to, if there's a positive case, close the building for 2 to 5 days. So the Department of Health has the amount of time they need to do the contact tracing. They will, at the same time, we will go into, again, the deep cleaning, which we will be doing regularly anyway, but we will focus even heavier on those areas where we know that there's a possibility for contamination. And then we will switch our academics to a distant learning model, which our teachers have been and will continue to be trained throughout this summer. So there will not be a loss of time as well as schooling for our students. Very, 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 very big tasks. Obviously, this is fluid. Obviously, this could change. Obviously, there's a lot of factors, lots of information each and every day coming from the governor's office, coming from the Dr. Levine. So, you know, as of now, we are preparing and poised to handle, you know, any situation that we find ourselves in.
What provisions are being made for students with disabilities? How will students with complex needs be safeguarded if they are unable to wear masks?
That's going to be something that my supervisor of behavioral health and special programs, the parents, the IEP team, they were going to come together. The governor's message was very clear, understanding that we do have students with sensory needs. We have students with, you know, that maybe have intellectual needs, things of that nature. The governor was quite clear that now becomes a team, you know, a team meeting, a team decision, an IEP program. I had, you know, again, our health and safety team came up with some great suggestions. These certain types of face masks that have been proven to not bother students with autism nearly as much as what a mask may be, and still provide you the same protection, or at least very much protection. So that's going to be an individual, you know, discussion and meeting, and we're going to come up with the very best plan for the, you know, for the student and the staff that work with that student. But very, very challenging, absolutely. But it's going to be, you know, individual. No, there's really not one answer that can go across the board when we're talking about our students with special needs.
Okay, this next question is regarding the cyber program and the Edmentum. So it's got multiple parts, so I'll just read a few so it doesn't get too taxing here. If a parent elects to enroll their child in the cyber program, who will be teaching the classes? Will the district be hiring additional teachers? And if the district authorizes Edmentum teachers to teach courses, will credentials and certifications be verified and made known to all parents?
Okay, so let's begin with the first part. So we have made the decision based upon our numbers right now. We've had, again, a tremendous interest and enrollment. Our enrollment has been up. We will be having in our elementary classes, we will be having Crestwood teachers, certified elementary Crestwood teachers, teaching our students who are in the Crestwood Cyber Academy. Okay, so we've begun the scheduling. We've made contact with many of the teachers. There's still going to be a lot of teachers that we need to speak with, and there's lots of training left for our teachers. That training will be ongoing. Our teachers have committed to working this summer to get their training. So the elementary K-6 will have Crestwood teachers. Every one of them are Crestwood teachers. The secondary, we are still working on the scheduling. Okay, it's a little more complex, as you know, because it's really specific to a content area. I can tell you, using Edmentum for several years in 2 different districts, Edmentum only uses Pennsylvania certified teachers. Edmentum is certified through the National Military Federation, which is a very, it's very prestigious to be certified and recognized through the national military. The NCAA recognizes the Edmentum platform, but they will only be Pennsylvania certified teachers. And yes, their certificates are provided to the district. Again, my relationship with Edmentum over the past few years, the communication was tremendous. The technical aspect, Mr. Blanchard, and you met with them with me on several occasions. It's a very, very good technical service that they provide. We have confidence that, if the student and the family are engaged with this platform, that our kids can be successful and get us to the point of where we all come back to the brick and mortar. Now, again, there's a lot to cyber school for a child to be successful. And they have to be, they have to self-monitor, self-regulate. If you're a procrastinator, like many of us, you could start feeling overwhelmed really quickly. We are going to have safeguards in place. We talked about the cyber cafe, and I could go on and on about that, but that's going to be an area in our secondary campus that we're building right now. Mr. Blanchard, Mr. Brummagem, and Mr. Gorham putting together a place where if a kid does start falling behind, can come in and work with one of our teachers, okay, who will be willing to give up some of their free planning period to work with this kid. Now, there's a lot of logistics and a lot of planning and a lot of scheduling. So it's easy to say it, but it takes a lot to do it. But I can tell you, I've done it, and we have an association. I'm just so proud and fortunate to work with a group of teachers who are committed to getting us through this time. And they're trying to do everything that they can to help our kids be successful. So we're going to open up the Crestwood Cyber Cafe. Come in, social distancing. And if you need some extra support, if you're not working with a Crestwood teacher, and again, that's still, to be determined based upon our numbers. We will be offering breakfast and lunch to our students that are in cyber. And we will give you more information about that, because we know that still may be a very big, a very big assistance to our families if we can provide them a breakfast and lunch. So we will be doing that. Again, logistics still continuing to be worked out. I think we've proven ourselves as we are nearing 75,000 meals served since March 16th. We will continue to service our students. Right now, we don't know if the seamless summer option will continue into the fall. So it may be you need to go back to paying if you don't receive a free or reduced lunch, but nonetheless, that will be available to you. And we will make sure that if you need it, you will have it.
Okay, there were a couple other parts to that. Will the Edmentum hiring process be shared with the Crestwood families? How will curricular pathways be aligned to ensure continuity in programming should students unexpectedly have to change settings? Will the district hold a board meeting for purpose of explaining and illustrating how the two curriculums are aligned? If so, when would this occur?
So let me just, if we could begin, the first question again was related to what, Damien?
If the, and I don't know if you answered this, will Edmentum hiring process be shared with Crestwood families? I'm assuming if they were to hire teachers.
So our first priority, my first priority as a superintendent is the safety and well-being of my students and my staff. Okay. We know that we have, in both instances, students and staff that coming to school may not be the best for their health or the health of somebody that they directly live or care and tend to. So the first things we're doing is looking at our staff that have conditions that make coming to school at this time potentially unsafe. And those will be the teachers that we select first. That's the right thing to do. In my opinion, it's the only thing to do. And fortunately for us, Crestwood School District has some of the best. I haven't met a teacher that I didn't think was just phenomenal yet. And the fact that every teacher I spoke to who have already been trained and have maybe even been trained already this summer, but now we're doing a special training selectively just for our cyber teachers, have all agreed, yes, we will come in and we will be trained. So it's not that, well, you're this because you have a condition. That's the right thing to do. That's the just and the human thing to do, in my opinion. But the fact that they're great teachers who I guarantee you hear their name, you're going to put a smile on your face because you're going to say, man, I had such a great, with my other child, what a great, experience that we had. So that process is obviously confidential. It's going to be confidential. It's personnel, even if it wasn't related to the health and safety of the staff or the students, it's personnel, and that's always going to be something protected under labor law. As it relates to the scope and sequence of our curriculum, again, it's going to be our teachers in the elementary teaching our students. I have no concerns whatsoever that all the standards that we've come to expect in Crestwood School District will continue. I keep this by me for the public. We still have 127 people. This is just amazing. If you could see this, I don't know if you could see this, but what it says, I keep this right next to me. Crestwood, again, among NEP's best. Again, that's what you guys have done here. That's what you've created. 5, 6, 7 years in a row, meeting every single state standard. Man, that is just so impressive in this day and age. Nothing to do with Bob Mahalik at all. You've had several superintendents, nothing to do with the superintendents, to do with your building level administrators, your teachers. Again, that word again is so big, and we're carrying that word again into our cyber programming. We are carrying that into our cyber programming. We believe that we are going to do the best we can for these students who, by the way, are probably not traditional cyber students. They are going to this route because their families have situations or they just don't feel comfortable. We know that. We know it's going to be a huge adjustment. I am not concerned about the curriculum because of the teachers that are teaching it. In terms of the secondary students, again, lots of trainings, a lot of details still to be worked out, but I can tell you that, again, they will follow all state standards, Pennsylvania state standards, and I don't have a concern that we're not going to provide our students with what they need. My biggest concern, quite honestly, and I directly spearheaded a cyber program, is that our students may not know exactly what to expect. And, we all had probably mixed feelings about what was delivered in the spring. Nobody, and I believe Crestwood School District was as prepared as any school district. But what we delivered in the spring was really us trying to determine, will we be coming back to school? Is this short term? And then when it became long term, it was, they shut off the 180 days, 900, 990. We still have a lot of questions about equity and who had access to Wi-Fi, who had access to computers. That's all out of the way. We know who has computers. We've given away every child that came to us for a Chromebook. If they needed it, they were given it, and they still have it. So we have no questions right now that we're not ready from a technological standpoint. We have ordered many, many, many Chromebooks. Damien and Jonathan have been working to set up our Chromebooks. So my biggest concern is in the area of our kids just not really understanding how much work there is and how you have to pace yourself Okay, and that's whether you're in kindergarten, and of course the pacing in kindergarten, first, second, those primary years are going to be different, but there's still rigor, and we're still Crestwood. And that word again is going to be going over and over in our minds. We are not going to allow this program to not be the very best that it can be. So that's my biggest concern. And that's what when I'm meeting with my families, I'm saying, please be aware that it's a lot, and we're going to help you through it. And we understand that we may have moms or dads at work. We may have grandparents, neighbors, aunts or uncles sitting with their kids. We're going to be aware of that. And we're going to be flexible. And there is flexibility in this. And you may have to work on it later in the evening or at different times of the day. But the kids do need to pace themselves, and they don't want to fall that far behind, because that is where the feeling of doomsday happens. And so many kids I met with, and they just said, "Oh, Mr. Mahalik, if I could just catch up." I said, "Yeah, I know. And how can you catch up? Come into the Cyber Cafe. You can work on the weekends. You can work on Columbus Day. You're going to follow our schedule. Our Cyber Cafe is following our schedule. So when Crestwood has a day off, you're Crestwood, you're off. But unlike the students in the brick and mortar, you can continue to work if you want to on Columbus Day. You can work on the weekends, catch up, or even work ahead if that's what you choose. So there's flexibility, and it's alternative for that purpose. But that's my biggest concern to my public. And I'm going to continue to, just stress to them, please don't allow your student to fall behind.
Thank you, Mr. Mahalik. As a comment from Dr. Baddick, she would like to thank you and the board of directors for giving her the opportunity to gather this information. She's a proud member of the Crestwood community and obviously only wants the best for students and staff. The next question comes in from Angela Simcoe. I'd like to know if there is an idea of what percentage of students will be choosing cyber versus in school.
Angela, great question. I can tell you right now, I don't have a percentage. I would give a number of about 275 students that have chosen the Crestwood Cyber Academy. So, and that it comes in each and every minute. I get another little ding. I am answering every single email. So if I misspell your child's name, I'm sorry. I am answering every email. I want to know your child. I want to know your name, because this is such an important step for all of us. So every email that you're receiving, and if you haven't received an email from me and you filled out an enrollment, please just send me an email. You don't have to enroll again, but please send me an email. Say, hey, Ms. Mahalik, I didn't get one of those. Those welcome emails, but I am sending an email to every single parent, welcoming them, giving them an understanding of what's going to take place, asking them to hold off about a week to 10 days. And we are getting our Chromebooks ready, our staff in place, and the platform and training has been ongoing. So they will hear from us shortly. So it's coming in, and by the way, there is nothing better than the Crestwood School District, the brick and mortar, our hallways, our teachers in the classrooms. So if it feels like I'm pushing this cyber program, I am only trying to make you aware that if you feel unsafe coming back, or you just don't believe that the disruption is going to be way too much for you, it's the only reason I'm trying to make our families aware of it. Okay, because I know there's nothing better than our school and those hallways and those teachers. It's such a beautiful place. So I'm pushing this because I want you to stay with us. Our motto is always a comment. And that's straight from the heart. Always a comment. You're not leaving us. You're with us. And anything we have to offer, it's for you. It's yours. Now, don't know what we're going to have to offer in terms of extracurriculars. Certainly our sports are going, and they're going well. Okay, we're following the protocols of our sports, our athletic health and safety plan. So you could be on cyber and do our sports programs. You could be in our band. You could be in any one of our groups, and we're going to continue that. It's going to be different, but that is more than just a fancy slogan. You know, it's really what we believe. You're always a Comet. You didn't leave Crestwood. You are here. You're ours. You're important, and we're going to do everything we can to get us through this.
Thank you. The next comes from Ray Johnson. If you request a withdrawal form, how long does it usually take to receive? Apparently was requested a few weeks ago and hasn't received.
A withdrawal form? Yeah, he should. If he'd like, he could just email me again tomorrow, if he'd like to, or this evening, and we'll make sure that he's withdrawn. He really just needs to notify us that he's moving or leaving or whatever the decision is. But that's a very easy, quick, simple process.
The next question is Lisa Marie Saluka. My son wants to know if he opts for at-home school, can he still wrestle? He's a senior this year. Thank you.
I should probably have Mr. Swank answer that question. But yes, he absolutely can wrestle. We want him to wrestle. I know Mr. Swank wants him to wrestle, but yes, there is nothing. There's nothing that our students in the district that are coming every day will receive in terms of extracurricular activities that are in the Crestwood Cyber Academy cannot receive. And that, of course, includes wrestling.
The next question is from Tommy Benz. This is actually directed to me. Any update on the new website? Yes, the final revisions were made as far as design a few weeks ago. We should see the live template as of September 10th. So I believe shortly thereafter, I will place it live and begin constructing content.
Yeah, if I can add, Mr. Blanchard, because first I want to thank our public, our community, our school community for their patience with the website. You know, I sometimes I feel you get a little, unnecessary heat for this. Nothing you did, bud. You inherited a very outdated website. Okay, we were able to come to an agreement and get a sponsorship for a new website, which are very, very expensive. But to our families, thank you for your patience. I understand that there's a process now to get things from our website. You know, we try to keep our Facebook updated. We try to use Instagram to notify our families. And you could get to our website. We're almost there. You're going to see just a really completely enhanced website, so much more user-friendly. But we do apologize. The timing is just bad. I guess there would never be good timing. But now when you really are looking and needing and wanting, information, I know you go there and there could be some bumps. So again, we apologize for that.
The next question is from Dr. Baddock. How many faculty and support personnel will need to be hired to teach the returning special education students? Once salary and benefits have been calculated, what will be the savings, if any?
Can you repeat again? I'm sorry.
That's okay.
How many special ed teachers?
Yeah, how many faculty and support personnel will need to be hired to teach the returning special education students? Once the salary and benefits have been calculated, what will be the savings, if any?
So right now, we certainly haven't had a whole lot of new additional enrollments or kids moving in. Our numbers coming into kindergarten are very, very low, understandably so. Again, I had a child that started kindergarten last year. If this was last year, I definitely would not have started me. That's so our kindergarten classes being low was expected, and I expect that to continue up until the school starts. But we're still looking at our numbers, looking at those students who are opting to Crestwood Cyber Academy, and I can tell you we won't need less staff We need every single staff member we have. It's going to be everything in our power to hopefully not have to add staff. We feel, and again, I've been meeting with the association. We feel that our numbers are so that we can meet the needs, but it's still a little early for me to give that answer, but I would not expect us to reduce. In fact, I can tell you, we will not reduce staff. So savings will not come by needing any less special ed staff or supports for that matter.
Thank you. Sammy Jean's question is, will CTC classes be available when Crestwood starts?
So yes, and I speak with Mr. Frank Majikis often. Yes, there's the plan is right now that they will begin. Their start date is our start date, September 2nd. Our kids will absolutely be going if they've been going, or if this is their first year into the CTC. Again, a tremendous program for our students looking on the career path. I've said that you can go to the CTC as well as be a part of the Crestwood Cyber. So you don't have to choose one or the other. You don't need to go to the Crestwood Cyber to go to the CTC, but you certainly can do both. And the same with our young scholars and early college. They can do both if they wanted to do cyber and their college program, they can. So yes, CTC is absolutely right now scheduled to return on September 2nd.
Dr. Baddock asks, will students who elect to enroll in the cyber program other than Edmentum, so actually enrolling in any cyber program other than Edmentum, still be permitted to participate in district sports?
As per PIAA, they can permit, they can try out for the team just like any other student. So that's a PIAA regulation.
Okay. Gina Lutz asks, can you give us the results of the transportation poll that was sent out via email?
Yeah, Gina, I will absolutely share that with you. I need probably at least till Monday, and I will share that because I'm looking for that as well. We put it out on Facebook first, then we sent it out via email. So I still want to give a couple days for that. I have not even looked at the results. I spoke to our assistant transportation coordinator today and asked her to be prepared to send out the transportation application. Again, it's just a form that we want you to sign so we know that you are going to be coming on our buses. But yes, I will certainly share them, but I have not at this point looked at them myself, and I will not look at them, till Monday.
Kim Rosania asks, will the school be ready if the school gets shut down from the governor?
We're my colleague Kevin Sayers says, we are planning for the worst and preparing, for the best. So yes, we are prepared. We are preparing to be shut down. We are preparing that we might need to shut ourselves down, and we are preparing for the full return. And that's what makes this summer so challenging. And I know the administrators, my administrators and other administrators, Dr. Baddock, it's just difficult, really, really difficult because, there's so many things that we still don't know. And our decision to come back, was really made with the data, looking at Luzerne County. The numbers were really low. Now they are spiking and we are concerned. The numbers across the state were really low, especially when we were going into our graduation, our beautiful graduation. I can remember speaking, I think to Mr. Costello that night saying, man, we're another 2-3 weeks. We could have probably done this on our field with no masks and everybody there. And no, we couldn't have. Things have shifted again. They may continue to shift. I'm so lucky Mrs. Haddix is on here. She shares information with me every day from her position. And I look at the data, the doctors that I'm so grateful to be able to call up and ask questions and who share information with me. So yeah, we are prepared to be shut down. Now, if we had to shut right this second, are we prepared? No. Will we prepare for September 2nd? Yeah, because our training is ongoing. Again, we have training this week, training next week, training the week after, with training that we started in the spring. And that's going to continue. And the commitment from our staff, to train their colleagues is just tremendous. So again, we're preparing for the worst, and I'm certainly hoping for the best.
Okay, this next question, I apologize if I murdered this name here. Aileen Williams asks a question about when laptops will be issued to all students in need before school starts in case it does not, which can change at any time per governor.
So, Elaine, hi, Elaine. Hope you're doing well. If you have a need, please, Elaine, just let me know. If your child is going to the Crestwood Cyber Academy, I can tell you, Mr. Blanchard's about 50 to 60% ready to distribute. And we're going to distribute our first patch probably sometime next week. We're trying to get ahead of that as much as we can. And there's a lot of work setting them up, more so than just taking them out of the box. There's a lot of work that he does. But Aline, yes, if you need one, you will have one. As I mentioned, most of our students that were identified in the spring as needing access to some sort of device were provided with that device. In fact, everyone that I know of, there was no one that we did not deliver a device to. And in some cases, we delivered them and will continue to deliver them. So Elaine, yes, you will, if your situation requires a Chromebook, if anybody's situation requires a Chromebook, we'll get it. And obviously, the closer we get to the start of the school year, we may be a little bit backed up. But again, we know we have hundreds that have already been distributed. So the need is probably not as great as it was. And I'm just going to ask, and I know I don't even need to say this because you've been so well, but if you don't need a device, please don't take one. If you need one, if it broke, if you have multiple students, because everybody needs their own device. If you have 3 kids, you need 3 devices. If you're in our Crestwood Cyber, or if we should be shut down, you need 3 devices. But if you don't need it, if you have the ability to purchase for your kids, please do that, because we don't have an endless amount and they do break. And I know I don't even have to say that because you've been so wonderful, but I just want to repeat that. And, but yes, we are prepared to have everybody having a device.
Ray Johnson asks if who is checking the masks on the children ages 10 and under throughout the day?
Everyone, teachers, staff members, administrators, paraprofessionals. I mean, it's going to be, listen, this is our new normal. Okay, that mask is a part of our, really part of our dress code. Okay, so everybody, there won't be anyone that's not thinking, I need to make sure that these kids are masked if they're in that situation. Now, listen, we're going to be outside. We're going to be in gymnasiums. We're going to be at times where take those off, but when they need to have those masks on, every one of us are going to be conditioned. Please put your mask on. Do you need a mask? And we know kids aren't going to comply completely. Come on, adults aren't complying. Adults aren't complying. How could we expect our kids to just do it? We've got to make it a habit, and we got to let them know that this is for their own good, and maybe the good of their mom, their dad, their Grammy, their grandpa, the people that they love in their life. There's not a school just passing, some sort of policy because we want to make kids' lives miserable. So if we all reinforce this together, if every one of us come together and express to our children, our loved ones, how important it is to wear these, they're going to get it. They're going to get it.
The next question is Laura Klapaski. Are there plans to utilize outdoor space for classes, weather permitting?
Yes, Laura. Great question. Laura, absolutely, Laura. We are going to go outside. We want to go outside. We've utilized the outdoors for classroom space in the past. We're going to do it more, not only for teaching, but for, recess, for relaxation breaks, for eating. We talked about, I met with Mr. Feller, hey, can we do cookouts? And, yeah, we could do whatever you want to do. Can we do that fun stuff? Everybody loves the comet bowls. Let's take them outside. Let's, when we have a big sporting event, we could do a pep rally outside. We can. We could all stay a couple feet apart from each other and have an amazing pep rally. Our school spirit's got to stay alive and well through this, and I believe it will, but we're going to use the outdoors as much as we can, and we are going to use every inch of space inside our buildings.
Okay, just bear with me. I'm scrolling through here.
Sure, take your time, Damien.
Okay, I don't know if you've answered this, but Gina Lutz asks, will there be a firm deadline where definitive rules and regulations will be made so that us parents can make an informational-based decision on whether or not to send our kids physically to the school buildings?
So, Gina, obviously, if mandates come down from the Department of Health, the governor, that will change the way we are doing things. There's recommendations and there's mandates. So while we want to follow those recommendations as closely as possible, we know that we're not going to be able to meet every single regulation or recommendation, but the regulations, the mandates, yes, if they come down, we'll make you aware of them. We are going to be doing an informational video next week again. And we're going to continue to put out the videos, and we'll give you more understanding of what the school day will look like, what a classroom is going to look like, what a child in a shield will look like. But anything that we are mandated to do, Gina, we are going to make that known to our families.
Still scrolling here. Dr. Baddock asked, she would like to know why a hybrid model was not offered, as it appears at the present time most districts in the region are returning to hybrid model, smaller numbers in school and others participating in virtual, rotating schedule so that all students receive in-person instruction without overcrowding.
Dr. Baddock, that's a great question. It is. And if I can tell you that myself and my team, man, did we go through this over and over and over. And Dr. Baddock, everything you said is correct. It does lower the numbers. I'm going to give you the ultimate reason why we did not. A hybrid model is very, very disruptive to those people that work. Okay. And I really considered, you've got parents that feel very comfortable sending their kids back. And then you have parents who absolutely will not, under whatever the circumstance, send their kids back now. The hybrid, to me, and believe me, Dr. Baddock, this is the area that I struggled with the most, because I questioned over and over, to me, the hybrid, was going to make people's lives very difficult who were fine with sending their kids back. Okay. And if you weren't going to send your kid back, the hybrid wasn't going to entice you to bring your kid back. So it came down to that. And I really don't know if that rationale is the best, because it does lower your numbers. But, we really looking at, here's our option of the cyber. We hope you take that option if you don't want to come back. But, great question. And I appreciate the question. It just looked to me like it was going to really hurt people who are determined that they're okay with their kids coming back, and not make a difference at all to those that aren't going to send their kids back. So it's the truth that I've got for you.
Julie Lenio asks, will parent drop-off and pickup need to differ for students at elementary schools since buses will be held up to clean after drop-offs?
So so we're still, looking at our numbers, and we will be releasing some policy changes to our transportation. However, we're going to clean the buses after the high school drop off, right in their drop off location. The elementary, we can pull off the property because there's not going to be another pickup until 2:20 that day. So they will clean when they get back to where they staged their bus. Where we'll clean immediately is right off the drop off. So it's going to depend on how many parents are deciding this year, I'm going to drive my kid to and from school. I'm going to pick them up as well. And that's something that they wouldn't have done in the past. But this year, because we know it's that area that's the most concerning, we need to look at those numbers because we don't want to have a real big backlog. And Mrs. Baddock, Dr. Baddock asked before about getting off the bus. And that's those areas we got to be really, really, we've got our best management in place, how those kids are coming out of their cars and how those kids are coming off the buses, because you can bottleneck there. So once we get the numbers of how many kids will be on our bus, then obviously we'll have a better understanding of what that's going to look like. And like I said, we're going to send out the application for transportation on Monday. I'm going to ask you to turn around quickly in a week's time to get that to us. Then, we'll still have 3 weeks to be able to tell you guys exactly what that transportation is going to look like.
Alexis Clark asks, are backpacks and lunch boxes still permitted to go back and forth each day?
Back and forth from their house, I'm going to assume they're saying yes. Yes, absolutely. Now, I will tell our community that we are discussing, my administrative team are discussing that we will not be using lockers this year. You will be able to use your backpack. Again, I know that it's not something we would do normally. But for this year, we don't want kids going to their locker. Again, those lockers are, you just could not social distance. The idea of staggering them would be so difficult to understand. So we're going to allow them to have their backpacks with them. We'll find a place right by their desk that they could keep them. And, same when it comes jacket season, we're going to be able to put it on their chair. But yes, they can bring them back and forth.
Charlie Madrovsky asks, who is on the task force?
There's 25 members of the task force. I have certain administrators, and I picked the administrators not because I thought, Mr. Gorham was any better than another administrator, but I said, I got to spread the work out amongst my administration team. Everybody's doing so much. I can't even put it into words. And if I did, it would just sound like, but so I said, okay, I need a couple administrators. I need a couple teachers, I need a couple para educators, because I wanted to get the perspective of all the people that come into contact with our school community, some parents. And then I looked at the medical people and was just so fortunate to have these medical experts, and they are truly experts. Pediatrician, infectious disease specialist, a very well-known mountaintop doctor. The guy's brilliant. Doesn't follow the right football team, but brilliant in every other way. and our nurses, Nicole Tomac really has done so much with this. So I selected the committee. Of course, I've got 4 board members on the committee. I could not select 5 because at times we all meet together, and that would be a violation of the Sunshine Act. And I feel we have a good mixture of people a part of the team. And they made a big commitment, to meet with us. And we meet at all different times of the day, the afternoon, the evening. Again, we broke up into subcommittees so we could focus on these areas. And then, ultimately we're coming all back together. Our original plan was to ask the board to consider our health and safety plan this evening. And I asked, I want a little bit more time. We don't need it approved until September 2nd. But there's just so many things to consider, so many things that we said, let's just wait a little bit more and continue working.
Martin Perry asks, when school is closed, will we do some homeschooling so we don't incur extra snow days?
Okay, so the plan, and again, I'm working. So our administration has just been tremendous. And I want to, again, Mr. John Gorham he's our secondary principal. So a lot of people know Mr. Gorham, just an awesome guy as our secondary principal. He's also the Crestwood Cyber Academy principal. I felt it was very necessary to have an administrator to lead the school. Now, it's a very big task. He's not alone. I'm there with him. We have other members of the team there with him, but he's the administrator because his connection with kids is just tremendous. Okay, and his connection with parents is tremendous. And if you've dealt with him, you know that what I'm saying is factual. But the cyber school will not be disruptive when there is a closure. So if we have to close because there's a confirmed case, or that the district is closed because of a state closing, Crestwood Cyber Academy continues going. Their teachers remain the same, okay? Their programming remains the same, everything stays. What we're going to do, what Kevin Sarah will tell you, he's listening, he's saying it as I'm saying it. Our brick and mortar kids shift now to distance learning, okay? Now, we already have schedules made for our distant learning model. And it's quite rigorous, if I must say. So there should be absolutely no disruption. We are going to shift right into that distant learning model. We believe everybody should have a computer because, again, we gave out those computers, and if you need one, you're going to let us know that, right? Because and those that we gave the Chromebooks to, we're asking you keep them because we don't know when that closure is coming. I said today on my one subcommittee, it's going to be like a snow day every day starting September 2nd. We're going to go to bed and you may hear from me at 6 a.m. And the one parent said, it's not going to be a snow day, it's a blizzard because during blizzards, we usually close 2 to 5 days. So, depending when the Department of Health contacts us, and that's how it's going to work. If there's a positive test, the Department of Health will contact me personally or Mrs. Tomac or both. And then we will immediately go to our COVID-19 schedule, which is going to shut that building down 2 to 5 days, allow the Department of Health to work with our administration team, contact trace, deep cleaning. And we believe that programming, that online programming should switch pretty much flawlessly for our students. Okay. And again, now that's not the Crestwood Cyber, that's the Crestwood virtual program. That's our distance learning that we're forced to go into because of either a positive case or a state closure. So I want to make that clear. I hope I'm making that clear. If I'm not, please reach out to me and I'll try to make it clearer. But that's important to know that can happen. So it's important for you as your parents to make sure you have your technology. That Chromebook is in place and ready to go. Because if we close, That's all your child is going to need that next morning. And that schedule is going to be there. You'll have the schedule. And your child's going to be online, bright and early. And their teachers are going to be there with a smile waiting for them.
This next question is from Janine Klimick. How will the autistic support classroom stay safely distanced with their classroom being small?
Yeah, Janine, that's a great question. And it's a very in-depth answer. Again, Dr. Baddock with her background, Mrs. Harris with her background. They're small classrooms, no more than 8 kids. However, we've got quite a few adults in that room because that's the type of programming that we need. We really are going to have to look at each kid individually, as we always do with our students with special needs, but more so than ever, because who has a sensory issue, who has difficulty and needs, hand over hand assistance. Those are things that we do as great educators and paraprofessionals. And now we got to really think about that, like the things that we've done and that just come, so spontaneously, and they're embedded in us. And this is how we help our kids grow and improve in the deficits that they may have. We've got to think about that. So the question is, we have to absolutely be protecting ourselves with masks and shields. Okay. I'm looking at that classroom, and I mean this with all this respect in the world. Just had my son to a dentist appointment. That dentist, phenomenal guy, but man, he was so protected. My wife and I were so scared because, it's like you got somebody going in your kid's mouth. But you didn't feel that way when you saw the way this person was, prepared with the PPDs. Now, with that said, that in of itself can scare our students with autism. So we've got to slowly, bring to them that this is what they're going to need to expect. And that's still their teacher, and that's still the person that they know and that they trust, because those are the real hard things. And change is so difficult with all of us, but especially with students with special needs. So, Gina, great question. And again, we're thinking about this, and this is really what we struggled with the most when it came to the closure in March. Those kids meeting their needs, making sure we're doing everything we can do, because we know the regression is so much greater with those kids, and we need to make sure we prevent that as much as we can. We will do an individual, plan with each and every one of those kids. And our professionals and paraprofessionals in that room are going to know just how they are going to need to move around and protect themselves and protect the kids.
Susan Piccola says, will students who are part of the cyber program, when they transition back to brick and mortar, will they be provided with bus transportation?
So if we have a student that's in the Crestwood Cyber Academy and they come back and they want transportation.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, they will definitely be provide transportation. Now, again, there might be a day or two for us to figure it out. Because again, we will not go over 2 kids in a seat. If I got to drive kids home myself with Mr. Costello, that's what we're going to do, because we cannot go more than 2 kids in a seat. So we'll, and of course, I meant that as humor. We'll do what we have to do. Our bus vendor, we do whatever we got to do, but we cannot put more than 2 kids in the seat. At the same time, we cannot tell a kid that they can't have transportation. They're going to all get transportation. I mean, unless there's, a reason for discipline or something. But other than that, no, we provide transportation to every student.
Wendy Griffiths asks, because there will be more students and parents at afternoon pickup at the secondary campus, will we be utilizing the back exit onto South Main Road?
Yeah.
So we've been meeting. We are so grateful that the bottom half of our campus will be open. I, you know, I don't want to answer that right now because we will definitely be utilizing that. But I don't want to say for sure who is going to use it, who's not. But yes, we will be using it, and it will really allow us to be relieved of the the congestion that we had up at the 309 exit.
Okay, the next question is from Jamie Rupert. What happens if a kid is, I think what she's saying is if a kid is removed from school for a non-COVID sickness, will they have to be tested every time they are absent?
No. No, I mean, if they, there's many reasons kids get sick, obviously, but yeah, if it's not non-COVID related, kids are going to get sick, and no, I mean, if they're better, they have no symptoms, then they're obviously going to come back to school. That's where that self-monitor checklist is going to come in handy, for our families, and we're going to provide that. We're working on that, so you know what to look at in the morning. But yeah, if it's none related to COVID, when they're feeling better, certainly, we want them back in school.
Leisha Watkinson, will there be any type of thermal screening or temperatures being taken like Wilkes-Barre?
So they're, again, working with, thank you, buddy. Working with our team of specialists. We've been, made aware that it's a real low. A lot of our students, especially our younger students, do not show symptoms through a temperature. So when we look at the resources of taking the temperature of every single student, and we looked at every single device, quick devices that you could walk through, and but we are rather certain that it's not a real good use of our resources. Now, what is a real good use of our resources is as soon as a child makes us aware that he doesn't feel good or she doesn't feel good, immediately getting them to the nurse, and us, looking at what those symptoms are. Us having great communication with the families. And remember, it begins right there at 7 o'clock in the morning, seeing a kid, he looks a little flushed, her tummy hurts, whatever the case may be. And if it's not something that, well, now I know that's, you keep them home. You keep them home. We'll do everything we can to make sure they have their work. We'll do everything we can for them to get caught up. But, and this is the one time, and I say this to the families, if your kids are listening, block their ears, we're not going to follow them with their attendance. We have very strict attendance policies, and we need so. There's truancy plans that we need to put in place. But this is the year that we're going to say, please, if there's any symptom, and keep them at home. And that's our line of defense right there. But we don't believe that it's a real good indication because so many students or so many children are not showing symptoms through a temperature. And that's coming from the specialist, not Bob Mahalik, because we've been taking temperatures since March 13th at our school, every single person. And we'll continue to do that with the adults, and any visitor, even though our campuses will be restricted, visitors in will be need to have their temperature taken. Even if a parent needs to come in and it's an essential visit, because parents will have to come into our buildings, for essential reasons, we are going to, have to take their temperature, but our students will not be going through that process.
Susan Struble, how is the experience of volunteers checked before appointment?
how are the experiences of volunteers checked before appointment? Is that the question, Damien?
Yes.
So I'm thinking this is a parent volunteer. Okay, I believe, is that where this is going, Damien?
I think so. It sounds as if maybe, yes.
Okay. So even our volunteers need to have all their clearances in place if you're going to be volunteering in our schools. Okay, so that is a process. You know, I can tell you right now, you know, we're gonna continue meeting as a team, you know, but we are gonna be limiting our campuses to everyone, including those amazing volunteers. And believe me, we just tremendous volunteers. Our PTA organizations, top notch. Crestwood PTAs, unbelievable the work you do. But it's going to be different this year. But if you do want to volunteer, you know, you could please contact my office. We could help you through the process of making sure you have all your clearances. And the moment it's safe, you know, you can certainly volunteer. A lot of different activities in the schools, field trips and things of that nature. And if and when we do them, we are always looking for volunteers, but they do need to have those clearances.
Okay, I think most of the questions coming now were already answered, so I would say that at the end of the stream, you can watch the recording on Facebook, and I'm assuming if you have any other questions, I'm sure Mr. Mahalik.
Yep.
You can.
Robert.Mahalik, MEHALICK at csdcomets.org. I am trying to get to your questions within 24 hours. If I don't respond, please send it again as a friendly reminder, because sometimes I'm losing a lot of emails. And I am trying at the end of each day, I'm going through every one of them, but I am missing some. So just send it again, that you're certainly not pestering at all. I need you to feel comfortable and confident to the best of your abilities. You know, because I understand what you're going through. I'm a parent. I've got a situation in my own house where I'm, you know, concerned about someone with a pre-existing condition. So it's a lot. We're all dealing with a lot. And I know that we're, you know, listen, this time next year, I think we're going to just be not even talking about this anymore. I do think it's going to be this entire year that we're going to have to live this way. And once we get through this, man, if we're all, you know, if we come through this, we're going to be stronger than ever. That comet is going to be the brightest thing that you've ever seen. It's going to blind other school districts. So, you know, if we stay together, we work together. If you get frustrated, if you're calling and we're not answering, I promise you we will get to you as quickly as possible. Every one of us are doing everything. We know how important it is for you to have your questions answered. So I will take as much time, and I thank the Board of Education for being here with me and the support that they provide. I just, one thing, because Mrs. McCurdy and Lauren, could you help me here, please? Because she sent me a nice reminder about that 3-day wait period. Lauren, if you're listening, you just help so I don't screw that up. I don't want to give the wrong information.
I'll try my best.
Okay. So Lauren, the question related to a non-COVID case, okay? So it was a non-COVID case. So, and I know that the tricky part is that, you know, the symptoms of this is so similar to, you know, what our kids and staff deal with every single day. A cold, a runny nose, you know, an upset stomach, you know, some body aches, you know, those things that, you know, could be really just nothing. But Lauren, so what is that 3-day wait after your symptoms? So is that for any condition, even if you don't believe it's COVID, Lauren?
Okay, well, hopefully I'm correct on this.
Okay.
I believe that with a fever,
Okay.
the 3 days after the fever subsides is the recommendation.
Yeah.
With any other symptoms, as long as it's not COVID, I believe the current number is the 24-hour after symptoms have gone away. And the COVID-related positive cases, I believe it's a 10-day after symptoms have gone away. There may be longer periods of time when within families, one person tests positive and then the rest of the family needs to quarantine. I don't want to give out the wrong details because I only just discussed this before we got on the call, but that information will be coming out in the pandemic plan. And I think that some additional worksheets, additional information for families with checklists are going to be included so that everyone knows what they need to check at home, and what they need to do if anyone has symptoms, fever, or a positive case. And all that information will be provided before school starts.
Yeah, Lauren, thank you, Mrs. McCurry. Thank you so much, because I get those confused and they're changing. So thank you. That is exactly that was presented today from our medical specialist. So thank you so much, because I would have definitely messed that up. Mr. Blanchard, any other questions?
No, all the questions at this point were already answered, and again, they can view it on the stream afterwards.
Absolutely, and you can email me. This would be a very long, meeting to watch. So please just email myself. Also, you could email Mr. Gorham, call Mr. Gorham, Mr. Sayre, Mrs. Gregory, Mrs. Foster, Mrs. Owens Harris, Mr. Blanchard, any one of us. Damien's got such a good handle on this cyber stuff as well. So any one of us could help you through your questions. So please, we are here for that. So do not hesitate. In addition to that, I do want to again thank so many of you. I mean, we had, over people this evening tuning in on a beautiful, evening in the end of July, and that's just tremendous. It shows me how much you care about your school community, and that's what I found since I've got here. And so, thank you. And Mr. President, I think I will bring it back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mahalik, and thank you for taking the time to answer so many questions from our community. At this time, we're going to move to item 8, which is adjournment. Our next scheduled committee meeting is August 13th, 2020 at 4 p.m. And the next scheduled work session and board meeting is August 20th, 2020 at 6:30 p.m. Currently scheduled for the Media Center, though the likelihood will be more of a larger space option in the auditorium, as well as with our online services always provided for those community members that aren't comfortable coming into the area. So at this time, I'll be asking for a motion. Motion by Mr. Swank.
Second, Boone.
Second by Mr. Boone. Mrs. Black, roll call, please.
Mr. Boone,
Yes.
Mr. Brogna,
Yes.
Ms. Haddix,
Yes.
Ms. McCurdy,
Yes.
Mrs. McGovern,
Yes.
Mr. Swank,
Yes.
Mr. Costello.
Yes.
Meeting adjourned.
Thank you, Mrs. Black.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a good night.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Damien, are you still on there?